our good friend, Ohio University alum. Always looking sharp. The OU guys we bring on here always look good. We bring in these stiffs from Miami, these stiffs from UC. You never know what to expect. But Jay is always looking sharp. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, Tom. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. You look very tan. I guess you've been outside at the practices all the time in the sunshine, right?
Yeah, I play in the sun and I work in the sun at least 2 hours a day. So I do wear sunscreen, but I don't know. I'm out in the sun a lot. So
Well, when I had texted you yesterday about coming on and thank you for your time today, you said that you had been out mowing the grass, listening to the Reds on radio. So even when you're not covering the Bengals outside, like you said, you're busy outside.
yeah, yeah. It was almost. I barely beat sunset mowing last night, but yeah, you can still get tan at night, I guess, as long as the sun's still up a little bit.
I think you're right. All right, walk me through. I guess the first thing, Jay, and maybe you don't know because of when it happened and subsequently, what you were told or not told. Is a Jones saying something to be worried about?
We don't know yet. It didn't look good. Anytime the cart comes out and the player can't get on the cart himself, he had to be helped onto the cart. Charlie was moving very gingerly in the locker room. He initially said he would talk to the media after he showered, but then the Bengals said he wasn't going to talk. So I don't know that it's anything that's going to threaten his season, but it certainly looks like it could be several weeks. I don't want to play doctor. I don't know for sure. Just the optics of how it looked, it wasn't good. It's a good sign that he was in the locker room. Same with McKinley Jackson last whatever the days all run together.
Yeah.
But you see those guys back in the locker room. It's not the worst case scenario. So it's a shame for Charlie. He was having a great camp. He I think Jermaine Burton is still kind of struggling with grasping everything in the slot because there's so many things that can change within one play, and then when there's an audible, everything changes. And I think he's still trying to grasp all that. So they've kind of moved him more back outside. And it's in my mind, it's really down to Yoshivas and Charlie Jones in the slot. And Trent Irwin. Trent Irwin's just been there forever for Joe Burrow. They've got a great connection. So I think you're going to see him in there a lot too. But just a shame for Charlie because he was having a great camp.
All right, well, you talked about him at wide receiver. How about the backup plan in the return game if he's going to be out?
Yeah, I think you're going to see Travion Williams back there. Trenton Irwin does it some. Chris Evans does it some. This could leave that spot open for Chris Evans. I had written him off on every 53-man roster projection I've done so far, and this could leave that open. You're basically going to need two kick returners with this new rule. You got to put one on either side of the field just so the ball's not rolling around in that dead zone. And then at punt return, I think that's where Charlie really was going to excel. He returned one against the Ravens in week 2 last year for a touchdown. Then he breaks his thumb in week 3, and he missed 6 weeks. And he was just kind of behind, getting caught up after that. I don't know where they'll go. Trenton Irwin is a reliable guy, kind of in the Alex Erickson mold, where you know what you're going to get with him. Maybe not the explosive end. But we'll see where it goes. There's other options. Chase Brown, I think, is definitely in the mix on kick return. I think he could be really explosive with his speed and shiftiness back there.
Want to walk through the decision change by Zach Taylor this year. I've already said today on the show, if you weren't with us, I've already said, look, I know it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation in terms of playing starters in the preseason. I get it. And I am not, for one fraction of a second, God forbid anything happens to anybody, I am not going to be on his case. If something, like I said, God forbid, something were to happen and somebody is unable to play after tomorrow or after tonight. But what do you think went into that change in decision-making for him, Jay?
Yeah, I think there's several things. Number one is he listens to his players, and the players told him this last year. I think this was going to happen last year until Burrow hurt his calf, and then that was off the table. They did still play the defensive starters last year in the preseason, but the offensive plan went awry when Burrow went out. Guys, they want to just kind of shake the rust off, and I don't know how much it actually helps you get ready, but just the mental part of going out there and getting dressed and hearing the crowd. And, it's been months since they've done that kind of thing. And I think just listening to his players saying, yes, we would like to get some snaps. I think another part of it is they have much more confidence in this offensive line than even last year. It was still a bit of an unknown with Jonah switching sides and Orlando being new here. And I just think they have more confidence here that nothing crazy. You're not going to get a free runner at Joe Burrow. There's not a lot of blitzing in the preseason. And just, I think, a comfort level with where Joe is. And the slow starts of the past. I don't chalk up the 0-2 starts the last 2 years that the guy's not playing in the preseason. I chalk it up to Joe Burrow not practicing in the preseason or in training camp. So all those factors together kind of roll into it. You're right. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. You know who is going to be on Zach's case if something goes awry? The same people that said you have to play these guys in the preseason.
That's right.
They're going to forget they ever said that, and then they're going to criticize him. My one worry, I still don't think the risk outweighs the reward. I wouldn't do it if it was me. The one concern I think should be there is we know how competitive Joe Burrow is. And let's say the first series they go 3 and out. And the second series they're having marginal success and they get to about midfield and it's 3rd and 8 and there's no one open and he tucks the ball and takes off running and opens himself up to something, outside of the pocket. I think they're going to try to play it safe, but once the juices get flowing and these guys get going, and it kind of turns into a real game, even though they know it's a preseason game. So that would be my concern. But I do think they want to see him not necessarily take a hit, but get knocked down, get bumped, and see how he's going to brace with that wrist and break his fall. All those things I think are going into why they're going to play tomorrow night.
Jay, I don't get a chance to read everything every day. I wish I did, but I don't. But one thing that is perplexed is not the right word. I haven't heard much about Zach Moss.
I mean, he's had a quiet camp. He's had a quiet career. That's the reason they went out and got him. Is he was a little bit more affordable than some of these splash running backs. And Chase Brown has had a fantastic camp. I mean, even when they're just thudding and they're just basically two-hand touching in the run game, he's still getting through untouched and breaking into the second level. He's been really impressive. Zach Moss just does what he does, and part of what he does that makes him such an effective running back is after that first contact, he finds another way to get 2, 3, 4, 5 yards as he's falling, as he's spinning. And we just haven't seen that element of his game because they're not tackling in practice. They have been throwing to him a lot. I would say a lot, but more than I expected out of the backfield, and not just on checkdowns, some design screens and stuff. So the running backs really do struggle to make an impact in camp. It's all, even when they're doing 11 on 11, still most of that's passing. And then they go into 7 on 7 and there's no running. It's all passing there. So everything's kind of focused on the passing game in camp. So I think that might be a reason that there hasn't been a lot of talk about Zach Moss. But he's just, when he talks, he's very quiet and very deliberate about what he says. And when he plays, he just doesn't have this splash, this dazzle to his game. But he's going to be a very effective runner, and he's going to be a big part of this offense.
Continuing in that theme a little bit, Jay, I remember, the offense last year made a major change as far as getting up under center a little bit more when Jake Browning was the quarterback and Burrow was going to be out for the year. And Burrow had made comments from time to time about, I've noticed something with that, and there are some things I really like about that. When all is said and done, do you suspect we see more of that now with Burrow back, or is it just going to be, running back standing next to Burrow and they're in shotgun 90% of the time?
No, I do think we're going to see more of it. I think we were going to see more of it last year. There was a lot of talk about them doing more under center stuff. And again, the Burrow calf injury just threw a wrench into everything. They didn't want him doing the extra backpedaling that it takes when you're coming out from under center and putting even more stress on that calf. But they did. They found something in that offense with the nakeds and the bootlegs and the screen game, that so much of that stuff that worked for Jake Browning can work for Joe Burrow too, without kind of silencing his secret weapon, which is standing back there in shotgun, reading the field, knowing exactly where he's going to go. That's still going to be the meat of this offense. But yes, anytime you can be more multiple on offense and more dynamic, and now you've got those two backs back there and Chase Brown and Zach Moss, and you're expecting a more explosive run game. I think we're going to see them under center quite a bit more this year. Not anywhere close to approaching 50-50, but way more than what we've seen in past years with Burrow.
Okay. As far as tonight, a preseason game, yes, we've mentioned starters will play unlike in the past. But for you, share with us, just the layman who's excited for Bengals football to get started. You've been watching them every day in practice. What are 2 or 3 things that a fan should maybe watch for tonight in the first preseason game?
Well, you mentioned it, the starters, obviously Burrow, everybody's eyes are going to go to him. But watch the defense. That this defense, they've got a chip on their shoulder, and we saw it with the fights the other day. They're sick and tired of hearing about how bad they were last year and how many explosive plays they gave up. And it's not just they're tired of hearing it. They've gotten better. Geno Stone and Von Bell have come in to be the starting safeties, and they have just totally settled everything back there. You're not seeing these busted assignments in camp like we were last year, and it carried into the regular season. Just watch that and see how, yes, passes are going to get completed, plays are going to be made, but you're not going to see guys you wouldn't think running wide open in the secondary the way we did last year. DJ Turner in particular, he's had a really good camp. I think he's going to win that battle with Dax Hill. The other thing, and I don't know if the layman cares, I care. I'm fascinated by the punting battle. It went from 3 down to 2. Austin McNamara, they signed as an undrafted free agent to compete with Brad Robbins. They just cut him because they brought in another undrafted guy in Ryan Rico. And this Rico kid has a booming leg. It's amazing to watch when he actually gets a hold of one. He is a little inconsistent, but I'm interested to see what that split of punts is going to look like, how Rico performs under the lights. He's coming from BYU. He's never kicked in an NFL game before, even though it's preseason. See if it's too big for him. And then the other thing, like any of these preseason games, the kickoff. This new rule has just totally changed things, and it's been disappointing so far. The Hall of Fame game, the games last night, you haven't seen anyone break one yet, and it's coming. And the Bengals team, they could be one of the ones that makes that first big splash play in the kick return game. Well, I'm sure we'll see Chase Brown back there for at least one, and then, as I mentioned before, Chris Evans, Travion Williams. The whole dynamic of how that new kick rule works is just fascinating to me.
The question you've been asked, I'm sure, by your friends, by people in other towns that have you on shows just like this one. When does the Chase thing start to become a big deal?
Well, if it's September 8th and he's still wearing a baseball hat, that's a big deal. Joe Burrow said it. He needs a couple practices. He's got more time on task with that guy than maybe any quarterback receiver duo in the league. And Zach said, throw the college stuff out. That doesn't matter anymore. It was a nice base, but they've got these 3 years together in the NFL. Chase is still out there. He's supporting his teammates. He's helping his teammates. He's the young receivers. He's giving them tips after they come back from their route. So he's invested. He's just proving a point. I don't think there's any way that this drags out to where we're talking about him missing games. So that's the only way that, for me, that you would have to start having some concern, is if this is still going on as the regular season gets here.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's that drama like there is in Dallas right now. I mean, with Jerry Jones and CeeDee Lamb, this thing looks like it's, Jones has said, I'm in no hurry, and Mike Brown's in no hurry. They don't have to be in a hurry to sign him. I don't understand why people are beating up Mike Brown or ownership because they haven't signed the guy. I mean, they're going to get him signed, but why pay him $30 million this year when you don't have to pay him $30 million this year? I mean, I don't get it, but that's the way it's set up. For you, and maybe you've already talked about it with the punting, but I oftentimes have thought that those of us that are in the quote-unquote media, if you cover it long enough, and Lord knows you have in the NFL, is there are things that you're able to notice that I think people who are inside they're not able to step away and see the big picture oftentimes. If there's one guy or one thing that has surprised you during camp so far this year, what would that be?
I would say Amarius Mims. He was a first-round pick, and you expected him to be good, but didn't expect this fast. I mean, he looks like he totally looks like he belongs. I think he's going to win that starting job. I guess maybe if I go the other side, and it's funny because BJ Hill, I asked him about, he had a really good practice where he made a couple tackles for loss, tackles in the run game. And I asked him about, people kind of sleep on you as a run defender. And he's like, I don't know why people think I can't defend the run. I think I'm really good at it. And he's been proving it over and over again. And he had the best practice that he's had all camp yesterday. He's a guy, I don't know how much you're going to see him in there, a series or two maybe, but I think that guy is in for a really big year. Everybody talks about the loss of DJ Reader and how are they going to make up for what he did against the run. Now McKinley Jackson, the defensive tackle they drafted to be the run stopper, is going to be out. He's week to week right now with a knee injury. Don't sleep on BJ Hill. He's having a really good camp, and he's been a solid guy since the Bengals traded Billy Price for him, one of the greatest trades in Bengals history. So that number 92 for the uninitiated, keep an eye on that guy in Saturday night game and in these other preseason games and into the regular season. I think he's in for a big year.
All righty, Jay, thank you so much for your time today, my friend. Always appreciated.
Yep. Good talking to you, Tom.
All righty. Thank you. Jay Morrison from Pro Football Network.